Clean Air Act of 1970 is regarded as the most complete air pollution control bill in American history. It was a response largely in part to the American public's urgent call for action to address what it saw as an environmental state of emergency. And it was the product of a strong and committed bipartisan effort in Congress. The consensus for it was absolutely overwhelming. It was time to place the protection of our air, water, and land on the forefront of our national agenda. The popular environmental movement began in the 1960s, partly when scientist and writer Rachel Carson published Silent Spring back in 1962. The controversial book, along with a number of other high-profile events, really served to arouse public awareness towards a wide range of human health and environmental issues. But perhaps no event gained more attention as effectively and as dramatically as Earth Day did on April 22nd of 1970. Some 20 million people got together for the first nationwide demonstrations on environmental problems. Congress adjourned for the day so that members could attend Earth Day events in their own district. The response was really nothing short of remarkable. What's more, it came at a time when members of the Senate were going out and considering what to do about the nation's poor air quality. Earth Day itself helped to build a lot of political momentum for a tough new environmental pollution law. Democrat Senator Ed Muskie of Maine was at the head of the Air and Water Pollution Subcommittee in Congress. He had little doubt that the passage of clean air would be a really tough challenge, given the reluctance of then President Richard Nixon and the all-out resistance of industry and Congress kind of posed something of a big hurdle. Many members of Congress still really weren't convinced that we needed a national strategy to control pollution, but Ed Muskie found a strong ally in Republican Senator Howard Baker of Tennessee. Although Baker disliked the idea of regulating private industry, he was convinced that federal standards and federal action were the only way to bring about genuine and lasting improvements in air quality. Senator Baker sided with Ed Muskie in controlling air pollution emissions, and Congress was charged with setting standards at the insistence of Ed Muskie. The standards themselves were based on really hard science, not economics and not politics. Democratic Senator Tom Eagleton supported the Muskie-Baker plan, but he was really skeptical of the grand promises that Congress and the president often made. So he believed the American people deserved to know when they could expect results. To accommodate Senator Eagleton's concerns, deadlines for government action were incorporated into the law, and a lot of those government actions were made mandatory and required instead of being allowable or kind of permissive rules. Senator Baker went along with the idea of deadlines, but he had his own reservations. So he was asking really, did industry have the technology available and capable of meeting these rules? President Edward Cole of General Motors came to him with a question, and he had General Motors progress with the catalytic converter. Cole of General Motors provided assurance that the anti-pollution device catalytic converter could be installed in every new car made in just a few years. Senator Baker was convinced so much that the Muskie-Baker plan now included the concept of technology forcing. That's really like standards that are set so as to force industry to develop and employ the best technology that was available to them at the point. So now the Muskie-Baker plan was widely accepted. The team had gone the additional mile to give citizens, environmental groups and organizations, and state agencies the authority to bring lawsuits up against violators. That would ensure that the provisions of the Clean Air Act were implemented and enforced over the years. The Clean Air Act of 1970 was really truly groundbreaking, covering territory that had never before been legislated. And yet, when it was put before the full Senate, the bill itself passed unanimously. No one would really claim that the Clean Air Act of 1970 could achieve all of its ambitious goals because deadlines had to be extended. Technology didn't always keep pace with what was needed, And polluters often work to frustrate the law first instead of trying to comply with it first. That wasted a lot of precious time and hindered progress. But the real success of the Clean Air Act was that it served as a model for future legislation, and it moved environmental pollution concerns to a prominent position on the national agenda. And that's basically where they've been ever since. Basically, it was the kind of due to the climate of the times. Could have been something in the air or the water, but whatever was behind the momentum back in 1970, the Clean Air Act itself demonstrates what can be done and what can be achieved when compromise, concession, and consensus kind of dictate what different viewpoints are dealt with and respected. When you can set aside partisan politics in Congress, you can start to make some good legislation to protect the environment.